All right. How about we hear from a reigning world and Olympic champion?
At odds right now.
Oh, you want the bigger piece of the pie?
It's not even that. It's that he doesn't want to give me it. I've worked very long to increase my value in this sport.
Okay.
When he came to me and asked me to be a part of it, he gave me a number, and we said that number is not a fraction of what my worth is right now. And this is before the Olympics. We came back to him after the Olympics. I said, I still like what you're doing. I'd like to be a part of it. But if I'm not going to financially gain on one side, I have to market-wise get value from it. And at the time, he could not give me enough reason in my head to believe that I was going to market-wise get enough value from it. And I know a lot of track and field people are going to be mad, but I'm going to ask you this one question to prove my point. Have you ever heard of Grand Slam track?
No, I have not.
And that proves my point.
All right, that was reigning 100-meter world and Olympic champion Noah Lyles providing some clarification on why he turned down the invitation to be part of Michael Johnson's Grand Slam track series. He was speaking on NFL MVP Cam Newton's podcast. Those comments have since been met with vitriol from track and field fans on social media. But let's backtrack a little before the first leg of the Grand Slam track series in Kingston, Jamaica. This is what Noah said about Grand Slam track on his Beyond the Records podcast.
Okay, we're 2 months out, and I'm looking, who are your outside sponsors? Who are your non-track and field sponsors? I haven't even heard a block sponsor. I know. I want to hear, is there a watch deal? Is there, a betting company that's getting involved? Like, where are these other things that being in the U.S. provides you with? Because I believe that America is the
we got
best
all the resources.
marketing factory.
Yeah, we have all the resources.
Exactly. So I want to see those companies getting involved, and I haven't heard anything. Like I said, I haven't seen a commercial. I haven't seen promos, and the promos I have seen are just athletes pointing at the camera, which is nice when they're going to come onto the track. But, I've seen enough of those. I've seen the last 5. Where's the one that gives me the story? Where's the storylines? What's going to be the driving factor to get people to show up for 3 days straight?
Yeah, all right. We have called on the expertise of our track and field guru, Leighton Levy. Leighton, do you think the backlash is justified, or are persons overreacting?
Hard to say, Ricardo, because from my own personal perspective, I think Noah Lyles has drunk too much of his own Kool-Aid. But at the same time, there is some merit to what he's saying in terms of what it is about the sport of track and field in the United States. Now, let me expand on that a little bit. Now, track and field falls well down the rung of popular sports in the United States, and it has peaks every now and then, every 4 years more specifically, in the United States. It never used to be that way. However, this is what the current situation is, where behind netball, basketball, behind football, behind hockey, and behind baseball, behind swimming, behind gymnastics, track and field falls way down on the pecking order. So for Michael Johnson to make an offer to him that is a better fraction of his value would be to suggest that track and field is as big as those other 4 major sports that I just mentioned. And that's not the case. On the other side of that same coin is Noah Lyles. He's a world and Olympic champion, but he still doesn't have that kind of pull in the United States. He's not Usain Bolt, who has transcended the sport into other spheres. He's, to the track and field faithful, he is the man right now. He's a world and Olympic champion. He's currently one of the fastest men alive, and all of that. But in the market of the United States, he's still relatively nobody. I mean, he's been balling for a shoe contract for years, comparing himself to Anthony Edwards. For those who are not familiar, he plays with the Timberwolves, and has a bigger audience than he does. So for him to think that Michael Johnson would come to him with a 6 or 7 figure offer for him to be part of Grand Slam track is misguided and, in fact, in my mind, delusional because
Did he say
you're
6
talking
or
about,
7 figure offer, Leighton?
no, he says it's not a fraction of his value.
Okay.
No, I think that Noah thinks that his value is in those numbers, right? Maybe 6 or 7 figures because he's World Olympic champion and he's a 200-meter world champion. He's the fastest man in the world over 200 since Usain Bolt retired. So he has those credentials. But in the United States, he's still pretty much an obscure athlete who doesn't command that kind of value, that doesn't command that kind of visibility. So what, in my mind, he should have probably done when Michael Johnson approached him was join Grand Slam track, bring both values together, and help to promote the sport, and then probably argue for some equity in it. But you can't stay at one side and keep yourself in this box to say that nobody's ever heard of Grand Slam track. It just started. It's a first-year situation where it's not like you're starting a new NFL franchise. It's a new thing for a sport that has been losing popularity in the United States for the last 20 years or more. The reality is that Noah thinks a little bit too much of himself in the context of the United States sports market and not understanding that he needs to grow something to have value with it. And that's where I think he's misguided.
Okay, Leighton, I hear you loud and clear, and you make several fair points, but I want to take you up on a few of them. Now, in the absence of knowing how much Noah Lyles was offered by Michael Johnson to join the Grand Slam Track League, it is a little bit difficult, but I'm going to try and make a point here. One of the ways that superstar track and field athletes make their money, Leighton Levy, is by getting appearance fees. So if you are Usain Bolt, if you are Shelley and Fraser Price, if you are Elaine Thompson-Herah at her peak, if you are Inga Britson from Norway, the very best athletes, if you are Karsten Warholm, as well, if you are Femke Bol, when you turn up at a meet, you're not making most of your money from prize money. It's all about the appearance fee. Noah Lyles is at that level where he earns appearance fee out of the sport. Now, let me ask you this. Do you believe that for Noah Lyles to attend any track and field meet around the world, he is going to be pulling in an appearance fee of at least 100,000 US, Leighton? Short answer.
Yeah, most likely.
Yes,
probably even more right
most likely, and probably a lot more. And I ask you that question to say, why should Noah Lyles then take on Grand Slam track where he has to run 2 races over 2 or 3 days just to earn that $100,000 that he could be pulling down in appearance fee to run 1 Diamond League or 1 World Challenge, and he's only running once?
All right, here's the thing. When he goes to a track meet, a Diamond League meet, or wherever he is in Europe, and he's putting in these enormous appearance fees, those meets are already established meets, aren't they? They have a following.
And he's looking for established money.
Yeah, but you can't get established money from something that's just beginning. Grand Slam track is a new dynamic. It's a new format. It's something that's never been done before. Nobody knows what to expect from it.
True, Leighton. But why are we being so harsh on Noah for saying, until you are able to pay me at least a fraction of what I'm worth, then this doesn't make any sense for me? That's what Noah is saying. Why are we so harsh on him for saying that?
Because they can't.
No, here's the thing. There's a girl in the Grand Slam track, Ricardo. You know who I'm talking about. She has broken the world record 6 times already.
Sydney McLaughlin-Leveroni. And she might have her reasons, and I'm very glad you went there, Leighton. So go ahead.
No, but here's the thing. In the eyes of many, she's a bigger brand in the United States than Noah Lyles because she owns the world records. She owns the championships. Her overall record is better than Noah's.
Yes.
Because they both have the titles, but she also has the world records to back them up. Exactly. Therefore, for her to say, okay, let me let me put my value, let me put my presence into this, my brand into Grand Slam track, and help to build it up, right? You see what happened since Jamaica. Bigger crowds in Miramar, bigger crowds yet in
I don't know
Philadelphia.
about bigger crowds in Miramar, Leighton. We're talking about a 5,000-seater stadium as opposed to a 30,000-seater at the National Stadium.
Yeah, no.
So I
Okay,
don't know about
so-
bigger crowds.
Okay, so let's take Miramar the Ball. There are 25,000 people in Philadelphia.
Yes. Great turnout
Okay.
in Philadelphia. Leighton Levy, answer me
Right.
this question. You talk about Sidney McLaughlin, Neveroni, and that's fine. That's one global superstar. Why are none of the other global superstars signing up to Grand Slam track? Have we asked ourselves the question, would none of the MVP athletes led by the Olympic 100 silver medalist, Kishane Thompson, no Inga Britson, no Femke Ball, no Karsten Varham, no Rai Benjamin? Who are the other superstars in track and field right now? No Julian Alfred, the Olympic women's 100 champion. None of the others are there except Sidney McLaughlin, Neveroni. So why are we coming down hard on Noah Lyles for telling you the truth and for probably telling us the exact reason why the others are not part of it?
Okay, part of the reason why the others are not a part of it is this. They don't want to run two races over two.
They don't want to run two races for the money that they can get for running one race. That's it. It's not just running two races. It's running two races when your value is being reduced. So you are being asked to do more for less than what you would make regularly in the system that Noah Lyles is already complaining about.
Ricardo, how do you build a brand?
That's not Noah Lyles' job. Noah Lyles is trying to collect on his brand.
He was given an opportunity to help to build that brand that he would benefit from.
But what he's saying is his brand is already built, so he doesn't need to help to build.
Built where? In the United States?
Exactly.
No.
Okay, Leighton, so why is it the conversation, why are all the other athletes helping to build Grand Slam track? Listen, Leighton, Grand Slam track, hold on, Leighton, Grand Slam track is built as a savior for the sport. It is not saving the sport because certainly the dominant figures, the dominant athletes in the sport at the moment don't feel so because they are not benefiting from it. It is the athletes in the middle and the lower end of track and field who are most benefiting from Grand Slam track. And that's not a bad thing, but don't blame the big athletes.
No. I'm going to use an example in Jamaica from 60 years ago when Norman Marley and a few people wanted to build a national stadium in Jamaica. And the bulk of the country did not want it to happen because they didn't think it was necessary. Sometimes, Ricardo, it means that the majority may mean that all the fools are on the same side. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that they won't be a part of it in the future. It doesn't mean that they will not see the value of it going forward. It doesn't mean that there won't be adjustments to Grand Slam track in the future that will have them to see the benefits of it. It just means that it's a startup, and a startup doesn't necessarily have the capital, whether by brand or money, to do the things that Noah Lyles wants it to do. No, if this was 5 years down the road, maybe things would be different, but this is the seed that's being planted. You can't pick the fruit from the seed, you pick the fruit from the tree. And that's what Michael Johnson is trying to do with Grand Slam track. He's trying to create a tree that will produce the fruit for the athlete to benefit from. You can't pick the fruit from the seed. Therefore, if I was in his shoes, regardless of what my value is, I would bring it to Grand Slam track and help to build it. There are a lot of athletes.
At what cost, though, Leighton? At what cost?
No. What's the cost?
The cost?
What's the cost?
The cost is that he will have to run two races in 3 days for 4 meets. That is ideally what he might not want to do.
He doesn't have to run. He doesn't have to run 4 meets. He doesn't have to run 4 meets.
The fact is, he hasn't. All Noah Lyles is saying, when you can pay me or provide me with the market value, I will be on board. It's not as if Noah Lyles is saying Grand Slam track or the idea of Grand Slam track is not a bad thing. He's saying, come to me when you are ready to afford me, and there can be nothing wrong with that.
Do you know why Usain Bolt ran against so many no-names during his career at the Diamond League circuit? Because
he was getting the appearance fee?
He was getting 200 ounces last year, so there was no money to pay the others. Exactly. That's what this thing is trying to shit, right? So therefore, the reality is, if you help to build it, then you can benefit from it. In fact, he could actually negotiate for equity in it after a while, because he would have helped to build it and would have deserved the equity. But you can't build something from the ground up by spending money that you don't have, because you haven't proven yourself yet. Grand Slam track is not an established brand. Therefore, it doesn't have the equity, the brand equity, nor the financial equity to pay Noah Lyles what he's worth. But in time, if he had joined it with the brand and helped to build the brand, then that equity would then return in larger numbers than he probably would have expected, because then he would be a big part of why it grew the way it has over the years. I mean, assuming that it lasts longer than the next 5 years. Yeah. The reality is that he could have joined the thing and helped to build it, as opposed to sitting outside and trying to say, you're not paying me that money, so I'm not going to be part of it.
Right.
Building a thing is about coming together and building something for the benefit of the sport, not just one athlete.
Yeah, and I just have one question before I pass back the baton to whoever else wants to ask you questions. And this question, Leighton, it's on my mind, right? And it's the fact that he said all these things, he's come to the forefront, and he doesn't want to build any brand, right? He just wants to get
he's
what
not saying that.
No.
He's not saying he doesn't want to build any brand, but continue.
No, but what I'm trying to say is all the points that all of you would have made in the time that we had this segment, the point Noah is saying is he didn't associate himself because he wasn't being paid his worth, right? So he isn't thinking about anything. Now, Leighton, all of that aside, it's the new season of Grand Slam track, and Noah Lyles is going to be paid what he wants. Based on all the things that he would have said now, how does that sit with you, Leighton Levy?
If what? If next year they're offering to pay him more money?
And he joins, and he wasn't a part of this startup and all of that. Because I'm just listening to you, and that's what I'm wondering. How would you feel about that?
Well, if he joins next year, he joins next year. The reality is that maybe he sees now next year where there's more money available, he'll be wanting to be a part of it. But what I'm saying to you, track and field look, track and field has stars, but they're not as big as stars as some of them think they are. And what it is, that it needs a collective to build the sport back to where it used to be, where Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson and you know, even back then, Steve Williams, Donald Quarry, Steve Riddick and Houston Martyr were racing every week. That's not what track and field is now. Track and field is at the nadir of global sports. Therefore, it needs a collective effort to build it back to where it could be if the big names join. The problem I find is that nowadays, everybody's all about me and not about the sport, right? So it's me first, but then the sport that's not able to pay them, they complain about it. But you're not doing anything to help to build it. So if you're not doing anything to build it, then stay broke.
Leighton.
Because the reality is, without the sport
but Leighton,
growing,
it's not true that he's not doing anything to help the sport, Leighton. That would not be true.
What's it?
Yeah, but I don't think it's deliberate. It's not deliberate, not because he wins an Olympic title.
Wasn't he part of Sprint? Wasn't that part of helping?
But hold on a second,
wasn't
Ricardo.
that supposed to be part of helping to build the sport?
That's the point I'm making, because
Everybody wants Sprint.
Hold on a second.
Everybody wants Sprint where it has the lowest number on Netflix.
Even in the interview with Cam, right, he used Sprint as an example, and Cam didn't know what Sprint was.
Sprint was.
And that's the point. You mentioned before that he's drinking his own Kool-Aid and he's having too much of it. And I agree with you, right? Because I don't think, how many more people would come to Kingston, Jamaica to watch him at that first Grand Slam meeting, right? When you look at certain stadiums and where these events are taking place, the capacity nowhere close to it. So I am wondering if, when he says that, pay him what he's worth, we don't see it anywhere. We never saw it in the Netflix series. We don't see it at the stadiums. So what is this worth that you think he's speaking about then?
That's the thing. I mean, he's World Olympic champion, and I keep telling people, he is the only track and field athlete who's been able to galvanize support around the sport for the last 50 years. But you're saying both.
Yeah.
He's no longer around. Noah Lyles equates himself to Usain Bolt. He's not even close. So the brand value that he thinks he has, that he thinks that he needs to be paid to be part of Grand Slam track, is an illusion, right? Ask how many people in the United States who, outside of the Olympic cycle, know who Noah Lyles is. Is that his value? This value only comes around when the Olympics come around, because that's how Americans see track and field, an Olympic sport. They see the same like with Simone Biles, who, by the way, is also a bigger brand name in the United States than Noah Lyles. So what's his value? So what I'm saying to you, Ricardo, and
Donald and Mariah.
well, Ricardo, the reality is, Mariah, yeah. What I'm saying to you is this: Ricardo, Noah Lyles needs to understand that the way to grow his brand is perhaps to align it with other brands that can help to, you see, what's the phrase? A high tide raises all boats.
Yes.
That's what needs to happen. Noah Lyles is trying to raise his own boat at the expense of the sport. And that's how it works. When you say, I remember talking to a meet director back in early 2000s, mid 2000s, when this particular meet in Europe was sold out. He said it was the first time it sold out in years. Why? Because one Usain Bolt was participating at the meet. Has Noah Lyles done that? He doesn't even do it at his own country. So what's he talking about brand? Brand where? Right? I'm not saying that the brand is not big as a track and field athlete within track and field circles, but outside the circle to bring new fans into the sport, to bring new eyes to the sport, to bring new value to TV, to broadcast rights to the sport. Does he have that?
No.
I don't think so. So that's the reality what I'm trying to say to you. So align your brand with Michael Johnson, who is a legend in the United States and might not be as big a legend that he used to be, and help to build the thing. Instead of sitting aside and saying, I'm not going to be a part of it until you pay me. Because the reality is that his brand aligned in the United States, where 3 of those meets are. He is nobody, relatively speaking.
Leighton, I hear you loud and clear. We're out of time, so we have to go, but I'm sure we'll chat again soon. Take care, Leighton.
Sure, take it easy, guys.
Yeah, one of the great things about being the host of this show is that you can get the final say. And I hear Leighton loud and clear, but this is what I am saying, right? It is not an issue of track and field, or as it relates to Noah Lyles, it's not an issue of track stars, Noah Lyles being a track and field star versus stars of other sport. It is not an issue of what track and field athletes make versus what other sport athletes make, and Noah Lyles wanting to be at the level of what other sport stars are making. It is simply an issue of what Noah Lyles is already making in the sport of track and field from the system as it is now, and that what is being offered to be part of the savior of track and field, which is Grand Slam track, which is said to be Grand Slam track, is not enough, is not as much as he's already making. It is like another television station approaching Donald or approaching Mariah and saying, we will pay you 75% of what you are getting at SportsMax, but we want you to come because we want you to help us grow our brand, but you'll be making 25% less. Mariah would tell them no, point blank, and Donald would turn his back. Let's go to a break. We're back with more.
Donald is the builder type, though. He's, you know, the Bob the Builder.